indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have given us. You're such a wonderful God.
Hello everyone, this is Katie with Homeschooling for His Kingdom, and I'm coming to you tonight with a video about what happens if my student or my child is falling behind, or I think they might be getting a little bit behind. Interestingly enough, there have been a couple mamas who have come to me in the last 2 or 3 weeks with the same exact statement. You know, I think my child is getting behind with reading. The other mama was like, hey, we're having trouble in math. Like, what do you do when that happens? They were asking me. And then also my son was getting a little bit frustrated with science and history about 3 weeks ago. So I just really feel like the Lord wants me to bring my ideas together and share them with you guys, and hopefully they can help you. What I did with my son worked beautifully, and the same issues that were coming up with these two mamas I've seen before with my kiddos, or similar, and I'll just share with you what I shared with them, and hopefully it can help you out and your child. First of all, my very first tip would be, if you think your child is struggling with reading or math or anything like that, slow down. Stop the lessons for a little bit, take a couple days off, and just reassess. I pray about it too. I'm not sure if those watching are believers in the Lord, but I am, and I definitely bring the Lord in on it. I'm like, hey, Holy Spirit, help me out. What am I missing? But look through, what is it that's making your child get frustrated? What's happening when the tears are starting? Is the toddler walking in and then everything gets loud and nobody can focus? So just kind of think through, like, what subject is bothering him. Is it more than one subject? Is it the noise level? Once you're on to what subject it is, that's, I think, where this can help you guys out. If it's, okay, so we'll just start at the top. If it's reading, let's start with reading. And again, my tips are mostly for kindergarten, probably through 6th grade, but if any of this can apply past that, wonderful. I'm not sure on tips for like trigonometry and geometry and things like that, but I think these tips will help in the lower grades. So let's say you have a kindergartner through 2nd grade and they're just struggling reading. Or like my friend the other day had a 4th grader that was still having a hard time with reading. Here's the thing, during kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, usually the child is learning to read, and then after that, 3rd grade and beyond, they're reading to learn. So truly by 3rd and 4th grade, you're really hoping that the child is reading smoothly and quickly with comprehension. And if that's not happening, that's okay. We can always stop and reassess. Okay, so the first thing I would say, there's 3 different things I would see in reading sometimes. Okay, if it's a new child, like today, in fact, my friend came over with her 1st grader, and we sat down and we did a school day together, and I kind of saw where her 1st grader was at, which it's very typical what the 1st grader was doing. My son, when he was in 1st grade, was doing the exact same thing. She was sounding the words out with every letter. So if the word was stand, it was like st, a, n, d. And so one of the tips I shared with her, as well as what I did with my son, is to take blend cards, and I'm just going to show you them. I'm going to be showing you some Abeka material today. I'm not trying to push Abeka, it's just that this material has really helped me, and you can definitely go online and buy this if you want, or you can just incorporate it on your own in a similar fashion. But these are called Blend Practice Cards A, and I can put the link there to Abeka if you'd like to buy them. And then I'm going to show you Blend Practice Cards B. So we've got the B cards as well. Okay, and what they are is just learning the first, and a lot of times language is taught differently. So if this is not how your language program is taught and your reading program, then this may not help, but in a standard format, this would probably help. I really push on the blends. So you want to get the child to be able to say, like, let's say the word was bend, like you bend your knee, bend. So instead of having the child go b, eh, duh, you would have them really focus on saying beh And once they can get that front blend, usually the nd part comes very easily later on. So what you would do is you would flash these cards, and the little happy face is showing that it's a short sound, an eh. On the back side, it would show you that it's an e, a long sound, like bead or something like that. Okay, so you would just flash them, you know, and make sure they're like be, be, ba. And they've got a lot of different blends in the box. And then the blend B's are a little harder. It's adding extra consonants at the front. So if this word was stand, instead of the child going s, t, a, n, d, they have memorized by flashing these cards that when they see this, it's sta. So they read sta, and then all they have to do is figure out the n, d part. So these blends have been very helpful. Here's another one, plan, pla, things like that. And then once they get, once they start to really get these blends, mix them up, like shuffle them up. It gets their brain chugging along so that then they can start to read more smoothly to catch each word. The other problem I've seen with reading is that the child can read just fine. They can read stand, but when they come to bigger words, they're having a harder time with compound words or longer words. So like with the 4th grader, I mentioned to his mama, go ahead and reteach him the syllables. So, because he came over for a day about a week and a half ago. And I noticed he had a hard time with syllables. Again, if your language program is different from Abeka, maybe this would not relate, but with Abeka, they teach division on the syllable. So if the word was backpack, they would teach that it's a compound word and you say back, and then you would put a line through it and say pack. Or if it was cylinder, it would be cy and then the line, linder, and they would do lin and der. So it teaches the child through various lines where the word would be pronounced. And so when they come up against a long word, it doesn't seem so long because you've already taught them the rules on how to divide longer words. So if you have a curriculum that teaches syllables, maybe go back and reteach the syllables, go over those rules with your child. There's lots of rules on that, and so I don't want to make this a really long video. But if you have rules for that, Abeka has rules. Again, I'm not trying to push Abeka, but reteach the syllables if you can. That might help with longer words. And then finally, the overall idea that I see a lot is just that the children are not reading long enough. That's what I ran into with my son too when he was younger. He just didn't enjoy reading. And so I would let him off a little bit. I'd be like, okay, well, you did good. You read for 7 minutes. You don't have to do the full 10 or you don't have to do the full 15. But I found that was actually shooting myself in the foot. And so, because then he wasn't getting the repetition that he needed, and then he was much slower later on. And so what we did is we just started reading. One thing the curriculum asks you to do is read AM and PM reading. So, because it's overwhelming sometimes when your child's having a hard time reading to say, and sit there and read for 20 minutes. So they break it up. So 10 minutes in the morning, then you do another subject, have a break, 10 minutes in the afternoon or after lunch or something like that. And that seems to work. That really helped Zach when he was younger to be able to break it up. And then hopefully you can even push it maybe to 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon, depending on your child. And I wouldn't just give them the book either at a young age. I would actually sit there with them. That way you can see what they're struggling with. Do we need to go back to blends? Do we need to do syllables? Do we need to just simply read more? And that's one of the things I mentioned for the mama with the 4th grader. He could read the words, he just wasn't very smooth because he wasn't reading very long. So I just encouraged her to have him read a little bit longer every day, and then read in the AM and the PM. Okay, for my next tip, let's talk about math. By and large, what I have found with math, if a child is struggling with math, it's probably because they haven't memorized their tables. That's what I noticed with the 4th grader as well as the 1st grader who came over today. She was still counting on her fingers, which is totally fine for kindergarten and 1st grade, in my opinion. I let my children count on their fingers in kindergarten and 1st. But in order to encourage them, and also what I mentioned to the mama with the 4th grader, he was doing multiplication but by way of addition. So he was actually adding, bless his heart, in his head still. And so I said, hey, you know what, he can get there. He's getting there. He's just taking longer than he needs to if he could memorize his tables. So she right away went ahead and bought the flashcards online, and that's what I'm going to show you now. Again, you can buy these at Walmart, Target if you want. One thing I noticed though was that a lot of times they were only going up to the 12th family or the 12th table. With Abeka, it goes all the way up to 18. And if you're using Abeka curriculum, they're going to teach all the way up to 18. So I was missing out by just having Target flashcards. So eventually I broke down and I bought them. They're not that much though. It's a pack of editions. So I'm going to show you just my example right now. So these are the edition ones. They're each about 20 bucks. And I can put the link there again for Abeka. These are the subtraction ones, and of course they have 18 families. These would be the multiplication and the division. And so what I would recommend, I would highly recommend, is doing at least 10 minutes a day with these various flashcards, depending on what grade your child is in, what table they're working on. And let's say that you're already like a couple months in, like we are right now, and they're let's say they're on their 5 family, but they didn't even get their second and third family. Just stop everything, go back to the second and third family. Don't worry about the 5th family right now. Just really get the basics, get first family, second family. And what I mean by that is Abeka also, and again, please believe me, I'm not pushing their material, I'm just showing you what has worked for us. So like this would be a family. This is the ones family. It's showing you multiplication and division. We also have families for addition and subtraction. Okay, and then here's the 5 tables, or the families. Tables are families. Okay, and then so basically, what do I have? The 2 families here. Okay, here we go. Multiplication 2 families, or you can show it this way. Okay, so the division is shown by the table chart or by the flashcards. Now, I have, in the curriculum, they allow you to present it to your child either way. I would highly recommend the flashcards. Personally, I feel like that's a better way to learn it, because here are the answers right here. So we would take a ruler, and then we would have to hide the answer. I don't know if that's measuring up there, but as the child would get the right answer, you can bring it down like that. A little bit harder, and because it's in a row, they might memorize it in a row. What I like about flashcards is you can mix them up. But either way, my son actually likes the tables better, and then my daughter loves the flashcards. But either way, it's a form of memorizing. So that would be my biggest tip on math. Now, if it's something like clocks or temperature or something else, they're just not getting shapes or something, I will also recommend IXL.com, and you can pay that by month. It's not a part of Abeka or anything. It's just a website that I found that was super helpful. It basically hits it at all angles, certain levels. It has, I think, K through 12. And you just look through their table of contents and you pay by month, and then you're allowed to click wherever. So for instance, Taylor was just not getting clocks. I tried to teach it 2 or 3 different ways. She still wasn't getting it. But then I had her, log online and do clocks in IXL.com for like 10 minutes, and like the next day she got it, just like that. So sometimes it's just a new version, a new way of looking at it, or just simply repetition. So that's another idea. And they have a lot on that website too if you're struggling in different subjects there. Okay, spelling. Let's move on to spelling. Again, language curriculums can be taught differently, but overall with spelling, let's say your child has 25 spelling words or 30 spelling words a week. What we do is I give them, the way Abeka does it, they give you 30 or 25 words per week, and you have a test at the end of the week. So on Monday, let's say I give them 7 or 8, and then 7 or 8 on Tuesday, and 7 or 8 on Wednesday. Thursday is the review day, and then Friday's the test. But every single day, I'm reviewing the previous words with them. I give them their book, and I say, do this many words. They write them down, and they do their best to memorize them. Then I quiz them. I'm like, okay, the word you just wrote down that you said you have memorized, let's, whatever the word is, spell it, please. And I say it. And if they spell it properly, and I can do that to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of them, then I know they really did a good job. What I would recommend with spelling is don't wait to the end of the week and just expect that they did it well. What I've noticed with spelling is if I'm on them like every day and we're reviewing, by the time we get to Friday, we're good because I've been checking and they know I'm gonna check, so they really do memorize. And again, with spelling, you can do the slashes with the syllables, especially I'm noticing in 4th grade, some of these words are getting longer. So there you go again and repeating, okay, this is how you, for reading purposes, how you divide the word on the syllable. And that helps memorization for spelling too. Number 4, typing or writing. One of the things I've noticed too, maybe more with boys than girls, but boys sometimes have a hard time writing clearly. So you don't want to just skip over that. You don't want to think that's going to get better on its own. With Rebecca, I've chosen to teach them cursive writing, but you can do print or cursive, but it needs to be legible before they even type. I would highly recommend that if their reading or their writing isn't clear, that you go back and review. Now, I have an alphabet around the room, but what I'm going to show you is you can also get an alphabet chart pretty much anywhere, at Target or Walmart too. This is called the second grade writing tablet, and it uses like a more like a college rule size. I'm going to put it up really close and see if you can see the lines. So the dotted lines there are still in the middle, letting them know where they need to be putting, you know, uppercase, lowercase, things like that. Also at the beginning of this book is an alphabet chart. So if you don't have room for an alphabet on the board or around your ceiling, like I do, it's just wrapping everywhere. You can just say, look at your chart at the front. That will tell you how to write every letter. You can even tear it out, laminate it if you want, have it available. But it's important, especially numbers too in math, like you have to be able to read, because if the person can't read your writing, like even you could say, you know, at a future job, you know, your possible employer needs to read what's on your resume. Hopefully that's typed, but my point, you get my point, like you have to write well. So don't skip over that, make sure they're writing well. And you can pick these up. These lined papers are sold, of course, many places. I like this one because it's small and tight, but just have them repeat. That's what I've noticed, is especially if they miss spelling words or things like that, help them like on a test or something, just write it out, you know, 4, 5, 6 times. Make sure that they are looping properly if it's cursive or whatever. So don't let writing drop off. But also I wanted to say, typing. We've gotten our 4th grader into typing now, and then we've actually had our 2nd grader. She's also learning to type. My husband set that all up, so I'll talk to him and get that. I can show you what program we're using, but they're really liking it. There's a lot of programs out there that work though, so if you want to just search one with good reviews and get your kiddo typing, I wouldn't worry about it too much in kindergarten and 1st grade because their hands are still kind of growing, but it's a good skill to have. And I have them type for, I keep looking over there because that's where our computer is for typing. I have them type for about 20 minutes each, and they're doing fine with it at that pace. So I hope these tips have helped you. I don't feel bad if your child is behind or you think they're behind. You could be teaching really well, and it could be simply a situation where sometimes like our toddler will walk in and it gets really loud, and then, you know, I had to realize with my 4th grader, he likes it quiet. And so he was like, hey mom, I'm really he kept missing comprehension. And I'm like, why? Are you not listening to yourself read? Or, you know, he's like, well, it's really loud whenever Julia comes in. And I thought, oh, okay, I get it. So then I had him read in another room, and then I would check his comprehension when he came back. So it could be simply something like, the atmosphere is wrong for him to be learning. So kind of think through everything. Like I said, pray about it. The Holy Spirit will guide you, and then talk to your husband, or if you're the husband that's teaching, talk to your wife, talk to the kids too, and they'll help you understand what's going on. But I would say just the main idea is don't keep pressing on. If you feel like there's an issue, there probably is. You're the mom or you're the dad, you know what's going on. And it's way, way better to just stop a few lessons. If you incorporate what I had mentioned, or other ideas that others may be giving you for 2 to 3 or 4 weeks, I strongly, I can't guarantee anything, but from what I saw, within a couple days, my kiddo snapped out of, with history and science, he was just being asked to read too much. I called Rebecca and they said, yeah, no, a lot of times, you know, the mom or the dad will read some of these longer passages in history and science. I said, oh, okay, great. So I started reading a little bit more. Of course, he's still reading on his reading assignments and things like that. But sometimes you could just be asking them to do too much, and that's why there's tears. So as long as you got to remember, like, that you're trying to teach them to love to learn, right? And so if they're crying or they're frustrated, it's not working. So stop pressing ahead. We need to adjust something, pull back. And then when I started reading history and science with my son, he was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, and then it gives him more chance to get to the science projects and the things he loves, you know? So just reassess, think through things, take 2 to 4 weeks to really back off any new material, really focus on the miss, like with flashcards, start over maybe with your tables. With reading, get the blend cards, or if you can make your own blend cards, go over syllables again. Read more often for 2 to 4 weeks. Read twice a day, read morning and night, and it will increase the speed of your reader. These math flashcards, once they've memorized their tables, man, division will be easier, multiplication will be easier for them, story problems will be easier for them. So if you can just hold off for a few weeks, as hard as it might be, reintroduce or review some material, in the long run, I think you'll be so pleased with their progress, and they'll feel better about themselves because they'll be doing better. So it kind of crops up and happens to everybody. Don't feel bad. Take a minute, reassess. You're going to do great. And I know I've said this before, but if God has led you guys to homeschool, He's going to be with you and He's going to help you all the way. So I hope this video has helped you. If you have any other thoughts or comments that I haven't touched on, please feel free to put it below and I'll respond. Hope you guys are having a great week. I'll talk to you later.